Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. My name is Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com. It is Thursday, December 8th, and like every Thursday, we're joined by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. Doug, how goes it?
Well, hey, you know what? Now we talked about this briefly the other day, and so I'm following through with it. I used to hate Christmas. I admit it. Hate it in the context of that I just didn't enjoy it much because I was working in golf retail at the time, and long hours, long nights, long everything. And so since I've been out of it for a long time, so better attitude. So hey, I wore red the other day, a little red and green today, and all the way through our videos up till Christmas, I will have some sort of Christmas attire that
All
will be
right.
appropriate going forward.
That
So
sounds good to me. Gets me into spirit anyway. And also, I'm sure Christmases are much better now that you're working 7 days a week in the sports betting industry. But there's a
right,
big
right. It's
difference.
it's it's a big change, from that standpoint.
Hey, you know
I don't.
what though?
Only thing though,
It's
I'm home. That's one
it's
benefit.
it's a difference of loving what you do as opposed to liking or hating what you do.
Yeah.
So
Well, I liked what I did, but I
yeah,
just didn't like being there all the time.
right,
But anyway,
exactly.
so that's all water under the bridge from that standpoint. But no, hey, otherwise the sports handicapping stuff's going well. Excuse me, we could talk about that later. But hey, we got some great free picks coming in the NFL. Again, hey, I even on the show I had an overtime winner, Ross. I
Yes.
texted you about that on from
Beautiful.
Monday's game,
Yeah.
and wow, I was
Yeah.
shocked. Maybe it's going to go my way for a week or two.
There you go. Like I said, things even off.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, we'll let
Yeah.
that one alone.
I'm ahead of the game now. I'm 1-0 since Monday.
Yes, we are. This is our NFL betting podcast. We'll be discussing two games on the board on Sunday. They involve the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the San Francisco 49ers, which Doug will be covering. I'll be covering the Miami Dolphins and LA Chargers Sunday night national televised game. And before we get to that, Doug, tell the folks, I mentioned DocSports.com. Anything else you want to touch upon in terms of where they find you, what you may have coming up, any good subscription plans, and how you've been doing of late?
It's been going well, Ross. Got a variety of different things. So it is Doug Upstone at DocSports.com, and so you can take advantage of that and take a look with all the different things that are available. Last night had a nice winner in the NHL. In fact, your Buffalo Sabres.
Hey, how
Was it
about that?
what Thompson? Is it
Tage Thompson, 5 goals and
Tage Thompson?
an assist last night.
Right. So super night. So that was good for me on that one. So takes me to 15-8 of late in the NHL. And on Thursday, for this video is got a 5-unit play that I'm bringing up in the
Wow.
NHL plus one more. So you can get both of those at the Doug Upstone page at Doc Sports. 2-1 night in the college basketball. So getting a little momentum this week just overall. NBA had a little bit of a rough stretch, took off the last 2 days. Okay, going to be back at it tomorrow. Made a couple of adjustments, so I think things are going to turn right around. Haven't been doing badly, just haven't done as well as what I'd like to do. So from that standpoint, and the NFL, 4 straight best bet winners, 3 straight winning weeks in the NFL. Five play card coming this week with a 7-unit best bet, Ross. So good stuff all around the maypole, if you will, on what's going.
I
You can
lost
see
your
by your
audio.
hat
There
as
you
much
go.
everyone else can see. What else do you have going on this weekend?
I got a lot going on, with the NFL and college basketball specifically. The NBA, I'm starting slow in the NBA. I'm 58% since last April 1st, but if you notice the volume of plays, people who out there who follow me, the volume of plays I've been putting out in college basketball are a lot more than on the NBA right now at this specific moment in time. Having said that, college basketball just on an absolute roll, Doug. 18-8 over my last 26. Got off to a rough start, 1-4, but now I'm over 60% for the year as a result of that 18-8 run. NBA, like I mentioned, 58% since 4-1. NFL, 49-35 since January 30th of this year. That's good for over 58%, folks. Been in the top 10 on all leaderboards on all sites. I've been in the NFL all season long. and also my NFL 10-star top plays, which are the equivalent of many others' best bets. It would be equivalent to Doug's 6 and 7 unit plays. 11-4 this season, and dating back to last year, 22-9 with my last 31 NFL 10-star top plays. Only give out one of those a week. So a lot of good things happening. The NHL, a trivia question for you here, Doug. Who right now leads the NFL in goals scored in terms
The
of
NHL,
team goals scored?
is it? If I had to guess, it would either I would say David Pasternak, but I'm not sure that that's correct.
All right, not an individual, the team who has
Oh,
scored the
what
most
team
goals this
leads
year. Yeah.
in scoring? I think it's the Buffalo Bills after last night's after last night's 9 goals.
Well, the Buffalo Bills play in the NFL, but the Buffalo
Oh,
Sabres,
I'm sorry, Buffalo Sabres.
it's
So
okay.
cross-referencing everything here.
Yeah, I got you. The Sabres, yes, have scored 105 goals. The next best team in that area is the Boston Bruins. Unfortunately, the Sabres, they count defensive play too, and you know they're giving up way too many goals and way too many quality scoring opportunities. Anyway, I had to throw that in because I haven't had a lot to brag about when it comes to the Sabres over the last 10 years. In any
No,
event,
I've been there with certain teams, so I know exactly how you feel about that. And Boston Bruins have been doing very well. So I
yeah,
mean, amazingly well this year. By the way,
unbelievable.
NHL this year, it's. I mean, I'm happy as could be. I've been doing as well as I have because boy, it's not easy. I mean, the number of minus 200 favorites
Yeah,
that are losing.
yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's like almost every day. And some days there's three or more,
Yeah.
on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and sometimes on the weekends when they have more games. It's been crazy, Ross.
Yeah, and that speaks to how we've preached over the years not to use those big money line favorites because you lose one of those games, you got to win three of them to get back ahead again. So the bookies love you when you play those minus 200 favorites or greater. Anyway, let's turn our attention to the NFL. Doug, some NFL futures at this moment in time. I mean, we're looking at 5 weeks left in the regular season now. And does anything jump out to you at this juncture of the season that might be of value to the viewers out there?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's got the greatest value, but certainly it has in terms of current play. Two teams that stand out to me, and I'm going to go with one each division, and there's no big surprises here, but Cincinnati and Dallas. I think that the Bengals they've won. I think it's 5 in a row, and they've looked good doing it. And that's a big key component. And I'm going to go on record as saying I think this team is better this year than last year's team. Okay, now that maybe isn't news to anybody, but I mean, they got all the way to the Super Bowl last year. There's just something about this team. There's a confidence that you can tell. And the big key this year, or right now, I should say, is that offensive line, which struggled again. It's come together,
Yeah,
and they can run the. I mean, they ran the ball right at Tennessee. They played Tennessee's game better than Tennessee could play it.
yeah,
And then last week, I don't care how you want to look at it. They've beaten the Chiefs 3 times in what 12, 13 months. I mean, this team's for real, and I like how they're playing. And honestly, I've liked Dallas since like maybe week 3. You
yeah.
could
I know
just
you
see
have.
something was coming there. And then once Prescott came back, that defense, yes, it has some weaknesses. You can run on them, but scoring points on them, not so easy. So those are two teams that when I'm done with this video, Ross, with you, I'm gonna look up some futures because those two that interest me. Now, what you got some thoughts on this? Either
I
agree,
agree with
disagree,
both.
or who you like?
No, if I was to pick two right now, those would be my top two in each conference. You're looking at a Dallas team right now. Yeah, the only bad part about Dallas is they're going to have to win the game at home against Philadelphia to have a chance. Right now, as we speak, they're 2 games behind the Eagles in the NFC East standings, and they lost already to the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So they need to make up some ground. Now, having said that, they're fully capable of going into the playoffs as a wild card and running the table, but they're going to have to win 3 games on the road, as opposed to a Cincinnati team right now. By the way, I know I don't want to call this good news for Cincinnati, but Lamar Jackson going down with an injury, it certainly will help their cause going further. I don't know how long Lamar will be out. I know that when it comes to the type of injury he has and his mobility, you can't help but think that that's going to deter him to not be a top performer like he normally would be. Now, having said that, I still think Cincinnati's much better than Baltimore. They're better balanced. They have weapons on the outside. They could run the ball. Very balanced offensively. Their defense isn't great, Cincinnati, but they don't have to be. They just have to hold serve. And you mentioned their offensive line, and people again don't realize they made it to the Super Bowl last year. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Doug, Joe Burrow was the most sacked quarterback in all the NFL last year. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And you replace 4 or 5 starters on the offensive line to begin the season, and they got off to a rough start, like Doug said. But if you talk to anybody who's in the know and coaches football, they'll tell you the same thing. Bringing in 4 new starters on the offensive line is a task in itself. Doesn't mean that you're not talented. It just takes a lot of gelling and a lot of cohesiveness to develop over time before you're at full capacity. And I think they are getting there right at the right time right now. So, yeah, I don't want to play Cincinnati in the playoffs. And Dallas is going to be a tough out against anybody, even if they're on the road. So, and I'm not convinced on Minnesota. I mean, Super Bowl offense, but non-playoff defense, in my opinion, Doug.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with you there. I would not be surprised at all, depending on who they play. But if you just as an off the cuff remark, if they get whatever, if they're the number 2 seed or whatever they end up being, I could see them losing their first game.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just if they get the wrong team, 6 weeks from now, or 6 weeks from now, they get the wrong team on that day, they're good. They're beatable.
Yeah.
And that's been the case. No, they can still get better defensively. That's not a question, but there's just not a. I think what is there a good example of to how to gauge Minnesota. If you look at point differential, just in the conference, I believe Philadelphia, and I'm probably off a little bit on this. I want to say 107 plus 117 in point differential. So, and they're 1 game ahead of Minnesota. 1 game behind Minnesota is Dallas, and they're 137 in point differential.
Yeah.
Minnesota is plus 10, Ross.
Yeah.
So,
And people don't look at that. And that is a number that really, really is shocking when it comes to a team that's 10-2 right now.
right.
Only a plus 10 differential. A lot of luck has to come into play with that kind of point differential to get that kind of record. And I'll say it again. You mentioned Minnesota being a possible first round out, and I can't disagree with that. The only thing that might save them, Doug, is if they come in as a number 2 seed, they're going to be facing a weak wild card opponent, because the number 1 seed gets a bye. Number 2 would play number 6, and right now they'd be looking at facing the New York Giants. So that doesn't scare me as a Minnesota fan. Also, they might be playing now. If they play Seattle, that's another story. Seattle's, I think, is capable of knocking them off, but we'll see what develops. I mean, all good points, Doug, as always. All right, let's get to our free pick, my man. It's going to be the Tampa Bay Bucks at the San Francisco 49ers. Issues at quarterback for the 49ers. And who would have thought we'd be talking about the San Francisco 49ers in week 14 with Brock Purdy at quarterback, rookie quarterback out of Iowa State. And if you follow Brock Purdy's career, he started out like a house on fire as a freshman, and then I think he leveled off, and I really didn't see a lot of progression from his sophomore through his senior year. Now, that's not to say he was a bad quarterback. He wasn't. And Iowa State won a lot of games with him under center. But interesting to hear your take with all this going on.
Well, the thing, to get right into it, if we talk about San Francisco, I mean, San Francisco has a conference champion quality team right now outside of the quarterback position.
Yep.
Now, Brock Purdy, you mentioned about it at Iowa State, and I wrote an article, at another location, And what I said about Brock Purdy is, I mean, he was a 7th-round draft choice, so he was just basically just, somebody to take from that standpoint. And, at Iowa State, he had a number of good games. They got to a Big 12 championship, but the one thing I think he ended up being known for as much as anything was his throwing interceptions at the wrong time in big games. Okay.
Yeah.
He had some good wins. I'm not going to deny that, but so he did. If you watch the game last week against Miami, I mean, I actually felt for him because he was being blitzed incessantly by the Dolphins. I mean, it was just, it was, you felt, it's like picking on the weakest link, and that's what it did. Now he held up.
Yeah.
Okay, so congratulations to him. I'm not, can he win? Take them deep into the playoffs. I'm hard pressed to believe that. Okay, for what I believe right now, we'll see. I'm not as much concerned about even for them this game or the one they just played. I want to see how he plays on the road. Okay,
Yeah.
that to me is going to be the real tell about him. And by the way, he's a Scottsdale, Arizona kid. His family lives here and everything else. So he went to high school here and all that stuff. But anyway, so I like San Francisco. They have all the components necessary to to win a Super Bowl. It's just a matter if they're going to get the right kind of quarterback play. Now Tampa Bay, I don't know. Tom Brady last week, another just insane finish to a game. I mean, this team, they're the worst rushing team in the NFL by far. This year, they've had 2 games in which they've rushed for over 100 yards. And, I don't care how you want to look at it. You put that much pressure on any quarterback, not that Tom Brady can't handle it, but let's face it, Ross. I mean, right now, if you're thinking about paychecks, with him at being 45 years old, he's closer to Social Security than he is to cashing his rookie check. Okay, at this point, so they're averaging less than 20 points a game. Losing Gronkowski was huge. Offensive line, the organization deserves an F for the how bad the offensive line is. Defense keeps them in games, giving up less than 20 points per game, but they're a dull team to watch. And I think that has a lot to do with the coaching. I think they missed the fire of Bruce Arians from that standpoint. So I think that's a big thing. Now, going back to Frisco, Kyle Shanahan, if you're going to have a Brock Purdy, there's probably nobody better to have than Kyle Shanahan. And I'm looking at, if you think about how they would run their game plan, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot different with Jimmy G or him, because they're still going to run the ball. They're going to expect him to manage the game. They're going to make a lot of safe throws and or take some deep shots. And because Purdy has a little more mobility, they might roll him out, especially to his right, where he's a little bit better. Now, the spread for me on this one, Ross, I got to admit, it's a tough call here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to change it up for what I normally do on these videos. I'm going to look at the total. Looking at these teams, unless there's a number of turnovers, I see very few big plays in this game because of the defenses. I hard pressed to see anybody going 70 yards, okay, or more on a drive in this one. So with the total at 37.5 is the number I have. I can look at the Buccaneers this year, 10-2 under with their limited offense and good defense. The 49ers are playing their 3rd consecutive home game. And if they are off exactly 2 home games in their next contest, they're 12-2 under. So, Ross, I'm looking at, I would say, somewhere in a 17-13, maybe 17-16 type game. And I'm going to go under the 37.5 on this NFC contest.
I can't disagree there, Doug. For everything you said and all correct.
Too much, probably.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I know that they put out a total of 37.5, which is low, even by NFL standards. And there's a reason why it's that low. That's the way I look at it. And I know it's enticing out there, folks, to go over a total in the 30s in the NFL. But stop and think, not to say it won't go over. Hopefully it doesn't, for Doug's sake and for our sake. But it's never as easy as it looks, folks. And Brock Purdy, to me, he did a good job of managing the game last week, and I think that's the way it's going to be going forward. San Francisco's strength really is their running game. They do have weapons on the outside. Don't get me wrong. Great tight end, and you're talking about Deebo Samuel, one of the more exciting players in all of football. Working as both a wide receiver and seems like a running back at times. But Tampa Bay has been perennially one of the best rush defenses in football, isn't so imposing. Not that they're bad, but they're
Right.
not dominant like they were, Doug. I think they won 3 straight years with giving up less than 100 yards a game rushing, which to me, that's a great number. But not so much this year. So we'll see. So you're going to go with Tampa Bay and San Francisco on Sunday to go under the total of 37.5. And folks, I don't know why you'd want to fade him, because if you go over the videos on this channel in the archives, you'll see Doug has a very, very good record. We all have our tough times at times, okay? So, but he is, like all the handicappers, has done extremely well over the last 8 weeks on these videos. So pay attention, folks, and which takes me to this. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, take a second to do so. We got some of the best handicappers in the country right here. Myself, Doug, Big Al McMorty, Jesse Shule, Sean Higgs, who's enjoying a fabulous football season, a great start to the college basketball season. So I don't know why you wouldn't dabble in. It's free. And while you're there, hit that notification bell. You don't have to keep coming back and forth all day long. You'll be notified immediately upon any of our Winner Circle sports betting podcasts going up on the channel. Okay, enough of that. And don't forget to give us a like at the end. I'm going to look at the Miami and LA Chargers game, a game that will take place in SoFi Stadium in LA on Sunday. It's 8:20 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. It's a Sunday night matchup. And Miami right now, as we speak, a 3.5-point road favorite. The total in this game is 51.5. Boy, oh boy, Doug, if you would have asked me at the beginning of the year, Russ, I think Miami's going to be a 3.5-point favorite in week 14 against the LA Chargers, I would have told you you're absolutely nuts, because to me, the Chargers are the most underachieving AFC team right now as we speak. Having said all that, talk about teams that can't run the ball. The Chargers certainly can't run the ball. Miami's not much better. As a matter of fact, they're like 24th and 30th, 32nd or 31st. The Chargers are. You mentioned Tampa Bay's 32. The Chargers are 31 in rushing yards per game offensively. Now, on the other hand, the Chargers are also, what's really disappointing is they're number 30 in scoring defense. There's only 2 teams worse than the LA Chargers in terms of giving up points this year, and number 26 in total defense, yards allowed per game. While Miami, exciting offensively, but number 24 scoring defense in the bottom half of the league. Neither team, like I said, runs the ball very well, but Miami, number 2, and the LA Chargers, number 6 in passing yards per game. The LA Chargers run the ball 65.1% of the time, while the Miami Dolphins not far behind in that category. I'm sorry, that's the Chargers passing the ball 65.1% of the time, and Miami passing 62.1% of the time. This should be a pass-happy affair that always sets up for a high-scoring, entertaining game. Miami 4-1 playing to the over in their last 5 games at 55.2 points per clip. 4-0 in their over in their last 4 on the road. 56.5 points per game. In their last 4 road games, the Dolphins defense, which I mentioned before, they're allowing 33 points per game in their last 4. As much as they're exciting and explosive offensively, they have some deficiencies and vulnerabilities on defense. The LA Chargers coming off a 27-20 loss at Las Vegas last week. The Chargers 10-1 to the over in their last 11 after a road loss, and 6-0 to the over in those games if the total was 48 or greater in those 6 games, 58.3 points per game. Doug, I like this one to be a wildly entertaining, high-scoring affair. I'm not going to let the total of 51.5 scare me away. I'm going Miami and the Chargers over the total of 51.5.
I think you're on it, Ross. There's nothing to make you think that it shouldn't be. And the only thing that's going to stop it is if either quarterback throws an interception, basically in the red zone area or something like that, that curtails drives. but otherwise, both teams have the explosive,
Yeah.
characteristics that they can do well and put up some points in a hurry. And even one other thing that could come up too, if by chance for example, the first half ends up being a little bit lower scoring for whatever reason, for if there were turnovers or whatever, that's a great opportunity to make a second half bet on the over then, if
There
that's the
you go.
case.
There you go. And Doug, what's your thoughts on the Chargers? I mean,
I
are they?
think ton of injuries again.
Yeah,
I guess I would. The first thing I think of the Chargers is I don't know who their training staff is, but this is either the most unlucky team in the NFL in terms of injuries or how they go about with their players. They're doing it incorrectly
yeah,
because I mean it's continual, it's incessant. Yes, like their receivers getting hurt, that's not a surprise because both those guys are older, Williams and Allen. So that's going to be part of the deal with that. But all the other positions, plus I also blame the coaching because anytime that you decide that you don't care how many rushing yards you give up, well, to me, that's a recipe for defeat.
yeah. 5.4 yards per rush.
Yeah,
Opponents are
pathetic.
averaging against the Chargers, and they're giving up over 151 yards per game on the ground. I mentioned to both teams that's not their calling card, running the ball, but you can't help but think that Miami is going to expose that part of their defense, and that's going to set up for some really, really good play action pass opportunities. So we'll see. I like the game over 51.5. And Doug Upstone, he tell him who you like, Doug, and any final words.
Absolutely. They got the Bucks and the 49ers going at it. I got the under 37.5 in that one. So yeah. So hey, you know what, everybody, I want you to have a good time this weekend. Okay, that's all.
Yeah.
Enjoy with the football. And a great time this week. We got a week off of college football, other than the Army Navy game, which by the way you should watch at least part of it anyways. That should be a lot of fun, and see by chance if it will go under for a 17th straight time.
Yeah, boy,
So
oh boy, look at that total though, Dougie. Holy cow! Talk
it's
about a low total, 31. I saw last in
is
that.
that right? Is that the
Yeah,
okay? Yeah,
well, the Army, Navy, and Air Force when they play each other. I mean, there's a huge under trend there
oh
when the
yes.
service academies face each other, and the books keep adjusting and adjusting and adjusting, and they keep going under. I don't know, 31. I know.
Well, I think you can't play it anymore.
Yeah, yeah, you
That's
can't play the under anymore, right?
and here's this is now, we were talking 16 straight games of unders. Here's something I did some research on this and found this. I thought this was pretty amazing. Now things are different right now, but in 2007, which was the second year of this trend starting, the total was 64 in that game,
Wow.
and there was 4 subsequent games in which there were totals in the 50s. So this is how far the series have come
Yeah.
to be down to a 31. It's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Unbelievable. And in any event, there still will be some people who follow that trend, and that's okay. But yeah, I don't know, folks. 31, it's awful low. Anyway, Doug, great talking to you. We'll be back with each other on Monday on the Winner Circle Sports Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit Doug at DocSports.com, and also to visit the Doc Sports YouTube channel, where you'll see 6 days a week. Doug has his own videos there. Terrific job on those videos, shorter than these ones. We're a podcast, and that's what people
Right.
don't understand. There's a lot of free pick videos out there, folks, that you can get that are 2-3 minutes long. And when you walk away, you're not any smarter than you were the day before. I'm not implying that with Doug's videos, by the way. I'm implying it with a lot that I see out there. I'm not criticizing anybody. But those of you who have criticized us and complained that, Ross, 5 minutes in, and you guys still haven't talked about the games you're going to be talking about. Well, folks, our goal is not just to give you free pick winners, which we've done very well, by the way, over the last 8 weeks. Off week last week, but 3-1 to start this week. But, we're hoping you become a smarter sports bettor today than you were yesterday. And some of the conversations you heard today, I hope, are beneficial to you down the road. Anyway, Doug, you have a great weekend, my friend. And folks, take care, God bless, and good luck.